Welcome to C-Vine's Wednesday Evening News. Today is October 9th, and we are back again for now our second show that we are doing on our daily evening news. And there has been a lot of stuff coming out lately, so especially today. And I apologize for being on a little bit late. I had some technical difficulties again. My computer keeps wanting to update. It's like it senses when I start the news. And so that I have to reset everything up again. So I do apologize. But let's go ahead and get right to it. Before I start in, I am requesting that if you are not a subscriber to C-Vine's Daily Evening News, please go down there at the bottom and click the subscriber button. I deeply appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. All righty then. Well, I'll tell you, everything today has been very, very interesting. Today's video highlights, this is what we're going to go over today. We're going to go over the 9/11 Gitmo briefs. And as I mentioned yesterday, we're going to be doing this every single day. Every single day, we're going to be bringing you Gitmo briefs instead of a 90-minute to 2-hour long extravaganza about what went on with the tribunals. We're just going to go over the briefs. We are providing you with the transcripts, which they are down at the bottom of this. Everything that I'm telling you right now is located on this page on our c-vine.com website. So I'm reading off of you an article for those of you that want to read it, and then also all the links that I'm going to be going over on this are here, so you can fact check me and fact check the fact checkers, and also be able to read in more detail, because again, I'm just going over the highlights. All right, so after we go over the Gitmo briefs, this just in, PG&E second round of power outages around the Bay Area has been delayed. White House officials tell Palosi and Democrats to pound sand. Oh. They're not going to cooperate. There's going to be no cooperation with the impeachment probe because it's illegal. And also, Trey Gowdy joins Trump's legal team to fight impeachment. And it's going to be a bang couple of weeks. Rudy and Joe diGenova. It all leads to Obama, first Biden, then Hillary, then 3 others, and then Obama. Empty NFL stadium speaks volumes. And so the national anthem matters to us. In other words, where'd they all go? Well, hopefully they'll start getting a clue. Well, let's see here. All of these new releases, and there's much more that is posted in detail on our c-vine.com website. Go there daily for up-to-the-minute news, and these daily YouTube news videos are just meant to give you, as I mentioned, the highlights, and will be attached to today's news release on the website. So what you are seeing here on the screen, you will be able to go into more detail. Okay, I'm going to start every day with the Military Tribunal Corner, because I know that's why a lot of you are interested in coming to C-Vine, is because we do cover the military tribunals live at Fort Meade in Maryland. It's actually live via CCTV that's being piped in, so to speak, from Guantanamo Bay. So we are on Fort Meade in a special room, and we're watching everything and taking notes. And that's what we're doing. So after I get done with the military tribunal brief, if you don't want to hear the regular news, some people said they just wanted the military tribunals, please feel free to move on. So this way it will be short. Okay, you know what? This last 3 weeks, one of the many pre-trial discussions and arguments over this 3-week period in September 2019 is the military tribunals. Everything had to do with torture of the alleged 9/11 KSM-NL terrorists. While the information gathered from them at that time was considered inadmissible in court, we're finding out why it was thrown out of court. And so they are going over these right now, even though it's not going to be brought up in the actual trials. These are the pre-trials. And so they are going over these, what was discussed in the previous trial that was thrown out of court. So it's really interesting. These proceedings, quite frankly, were really hard for me to listen to for many reasons. Not so much about the enhanced interrogation so much, which is what the torture is also called, but some of the statements made by the alleged terrorists, because you can see them sitting in front of you on the screen. These last 3 weeks was unusual, that they were there every single day. In the past, they never bothered to come to any of the proceedings that were going on, but they were mandated. It was a rule that they had to at least come to the first trial. So this is the first time that they've been there every single day. Things really are moving forward. So some of the statements from these alleged terrorists, I'll tell you, one thing that was brought about that was considered uniform with all the 5 of the alleged terrorists is that they all gleefully bragged about what they did on 9/11/2001, whatever their particular duties were. They didn't hold back. They bragged about it, and they used the word gleefully. Okay, so during the proceedings, they dealt with one alleged terrorist at a time, because remember, they're going on 5 terrorists. It's KSM et al., Khalid Sheikh Mohammed et al., which means and the others. So with each one, for each particular day, etc., they would be going over one particular terrorist. So during the proceedings, today we're going to go ahead and start with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the rules that were correct for torture at the time when the torture happened. And this was before Obama, B.O. So, it was just about when Obama got into office. He passed this rule that everything that was found out during the actual torture, etc., was inadmissible in court. It happened first thing. Okay, let's talk about this here. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, KSM, which is also called, the capture and torture of him. Mohammed was captured on March 1st, 2003 in a Pakistani city of, whoops, what happened there? Oh, here it is. Rawalpindi, by a combined operation of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and Pakistan's Inter-Service Intelligence, which is ISI, immediately after his capture. Mohammed was extraordinarily rendered to secret CIA prison sites in Afghanistan, then Poland, where he was interrogated by U.S. operatives. I'm going to stop there right now. I'm going to go over what these words mean here in just a minute. And also, this is what they call black sites, where they take them to be tortured, so to speak, enhanced interrogation. So he went to Afghanistan, then Poland, where he was interrogated by U.S. operatives. By December 2006, he had been transferred to military custody at Guantanamo Bay detention camp. In March 2007, after significant interrogations, Mohammed confessed to masterminding the September 11th attacks, the Richard Reed shoe bombing attempt to blow up an airplane, the Bali nightclub bombing in Indonesia, the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the murder of Daniel Pearl, and various foiled attacks, as well as numerous other crimes. He was charged in February 2008 with war crimes and murder by a U.S. military commission at Guantanamo Bay detention camp, which could carry the death penalty if convicted. When the tribunal judge announced the charges, KSM interrupted and stated, "Wasn't murder, it was jihad." KSM was really pushing for the death penalty because he wanted to be martyred. And we'll get into that at another time. Well, I do have a link here. Who is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed? It's Wikipedia. It's pretty accurate. It is interesting. So when you click on that link, it has a picture. This is when, you know, when he was first captured. He looks very different now, that's for sure. And you can find out everything that there is to know about him, where he came from, what basically brought up a guy like this. Okay, and then the other word I was going to tell you about, what we talked, that they mentioned, that they did extraordinary rendition. And they do this with all the alleged terrorists, is basically it explains here that, they also call irregular rendition or forced rendition, is the government-sponsored abduction and extrajudicial transfer of a person from one country to another with the purpose of circumventing the former country's laws on interrogation, detention, and torture. Such renditions have been carried out by the United States government with the consent of the other countries involved. When you look through this is really an interesting read. It also explains to you what black sites are, where they are located, and it talks about historical cases that went there, which includes the KSM et al., and it talks about what happened in this particular case, what they used to do in the past when this came up. It talks about, you know, airline flights. It talks about black sites in Europe and shows pictures. These black sites may be of interest to you because with all of the sealed indictments out there, this is what they do before they, you know, actually bring them in many times, if there's having to do with treason and some, you know, war crimes and etc. So it explains how all of it works. Also, it talks about some other cases that went on, and it even tells you all the different countries that are involved in this and what level of involvement they have. So this is a very long read, but it's extremely informative. And I think it's worth to go ahead and do a little bit of educating for yourself. Okay, the other thing we were going to go over is what was the legal torture and the Gitmo in Gitmo before Obama in 2008. Well, Seavine did an article on that a while back. And what was legal torture at Gitmo before Obama in 2008? We have this link here. This is located on the Tribunal section of the Seavine website. Okay, and this is by Tom Head. The U.S. government has been accused of using torture light or moderate physical pressure against detainee persons held in custody for the political reasons, typically because they pose a distinct threat to the U.S. or possess information crucial to American security. In practical terms, what does that mean? Okay, well, these are the types of tortures that were considered okay at that time. Palestinian hanging is what it was called. This form of torture is sometimes referred to as Palestinian hanging due to its use by the Israeli government against Palestinians. It involves binding the prisoner's hands behind their back. After fatigue sets in, the prisoner will inevitably fall forward, putting his full body weight on his shoulders and impairing breathing. If the prisoner is not released, death by crucifixion may eventually result. Such was the fate of the U.S. prisoner Mandel El-Jamadi in 2003. Another one is psychological torture. The number one criterion for torture, torture light is what they call it, is that it must leave no physical marks. Whether the U.S. officials are threatening to execute a prisoner's family or falsely claiming that the leader of the terror cell is dead, a steady diet of misinformation and threats can be very effective. Sensory deprivation. It is remarkably easy for prisoners to lose track of time when they're locked up in cells. Sensory deprivation involves removing all noise and light source as well. Guantanamo prisoners were additionally bound, blindfolded, and wore earmuffs. Whether prisoners subjected to long-term sensory deprivation can still tell fiction from reality is a matter of some debate. Starvation and thirst. Maslow's hierarchy of needs identifies basic physical needs as the most uh, fundamental more so than religion, political ideology, or community. A prisoner may be given just enough food and water to survive. It may take as long as a week before he appears physically thinner, but his life will come to revolve around the quest for food, and he may be more inclined to divulge information in exchange for food and water. Sleep deprivation. Studies have shown that missing a night's sleep temporarily drains 10 points from a person's IQ. Consistent sleep deprivation through harassment, exposure to bright lights, and exposure to loud, jarring music and recordings can drastically impair judgment and wear down resolve. Waterboarding. Water torture is one of the oldest and most common forms of torture. A lot of people that have gone into the military, they actually, I think maybe it's with the Navy SEALs, they actually experience waterboarding themselves, so they know what it feels like. It arrived in the US with the first colonist and has cropped up many times since then. Waterboarding is its latest incarnation. It involves a prisoner being strapped down to a board, then dunked in water. He's brought back up to the surface, and the process is then repeated, and his interrogator secures the information being sought. Okay, forced standing. Most common in the 1920s, forced standing involves prisoners standing in place, often overnight. In some cases, the prisoner may face a walk, standing with his arms, face a wall, excuse me, standing with his arms extended and his fingertips touching it. Sweat boxes, sometimes referred to as the hot box or simply as the box. The prisoner is locked up in a small hot room, which, due to a lack of ventilation, essentially functions as an oven. The prisoner is released when he cooperates, long used as a form of torture in the US, and is particularly effective in the arid Middle East, I can imagine. Sexual assault and humiliation. Now, this one surprised me. Various forms of sexual assault and humiliation documented in the US prison camps as forms of torture include forced nudity, forcible smearing of menstrual blood on prisoners' faces, forced lap dances, forced transvestism, and forced homosexual acts on other prisoners. Yeah, I could see how that was interesting. Now, down at the bottom here, we have the calendar of the Gitmo proceedings, and it has the all the different transcripts, etc. on this also, besides on the one that I had before. But the reason I'm going over this is because a lot of the trial talks about some of the ongoing symptoms that these alleged terrorists still have, how it is affecting the trial, how they're basically milking it for all it's worth, and also some other interesting things that we are going to be bringing up. But this is what we're going to be going over tonight, just for the military tribunals. Okay, that's all for the tribunals for right now. Tomorrow we're going to be going over one of the other, or maybe two of the other alleged terrorists, and talk about what was replaced by the actual torture or enhanced interrogations that was legal before 2008. And this has to do, well, we'll talk about it tomorrow. It's I'll tell you, it's very interesting. All right, top news stories today. And again, you can click the links to read the full article. What I mentioned to you before was this is just in. PG&E, the second round of PG&E outages delayed in the Bay Area. Okay, well, there's a video here. I am doing this from another site because this just came in before I started here. And it talks about the timeline and when your power could go off and be turned back on in what areas. Shutoffs for the second phase of counties, initially scheduled to start around noon on Wednesday today, have been delayed. Officials in various counties say it can start around 8 o'clock p.m. The counties impacted are Alameda, Alpine, Calaveras, Contra Costa, Mariposa, Mendocino, San Joaquin, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, Stanzalands, and okay, I can't read that. Two home. I'm sorry. Okay, about 513,000 customers were part of the first phase of this public safety power shutoff in Amador, Butte, Calaveras, Colossa, El Dorado, Glen, Humboldt, Lake Marin, Mendocino, Napa, Nevada, Placer, Plumas, Shasta, Sierra, Solano, Sonoma, Tehama, Trinity, Yolo, and Yabar counties. Okay, so PG&E said in a press conference that they were able to reconfigure some of their lines and re-energize 44,000 of the over 500,000 customers currently without power. They're currently working on a main line that if they can get it safely re-energized, could bring power back to between 60,000 and 80,000 more customers. And then it says about 21,000 of Calaveras and 800 customers in Mendocino were not part of the first phase and will be turned off during the second phase coming later Wednesday. Okay, and there's a link here, counties, cities affected by PG&E power outage in the Bay Area. A third phase is being considered for the southernmost portion of PG&E's service area, impacting approximately 42,000 customers. Specific locations are still to be determined. PG&E says the decision to turn off the power was based on forecast of hot, dry, and windy weather, including potential fire risk. However, several residents have noticed little to no wind this morning in the region. This could change by the afternoon, with gusts expected to pick up. The strongest winds are forecasted to reach 60 to 70 miles per hour at higher elevations, according to the forecast models used by PG&E. So mostly this is going to be happening in Northern California, but Southern California is coming up. And a lot of people are questioning the degree and the things that they're doing. This article is in the thing where you can go ahead and click on it and read the rest of it. It gives you quite a bit of information going from there. All right. Right, the next thing is the White House officially tells Pelosi and Democrats to pound sand. They aren't going to cooperate with impeachment probe. Okay. Breaking White House. I tell you, this is, I don't blame them personally. It's my opinion. But the White House on Tuesday formally told Speaker Pelosi and 3 other committee chairs to pound sand, calling their impeachment efforts illegitimate and dangerous, prompting a standoff with Congress. White House counsel Pat Cipollone wrote on an 8-page letter to Speaker Pelosi and Dem chairs on 3 key committees, Schiff, Cummings, and Engel, letting them know that their impeachment inquiry lacks any legitimate constitutional foundation and violates Trump's due process rights. Cipollone also called the Democrats' impeachment inquiry a partisan effort to overturn the results of the 2016 election of President Donald Trump. Your unprecedented actions have left the president with no choice, said the letter signed by Pat Cipollone. In order to fulfill his duties to the American people and the Constitution, the executive branch, and all future occupants of the office of the presidency, President Trump and his administration cannot participate in your partisan and unconstitutional inquiry under these circumstances. Given that your inquiry lacks any legitimate constitutional foundation, any pretense or fairness, or even the most elementary due process protections, the executive branch cannot be expected to participate in it, Cipollone wrote. Earlier Tuesday, the State Department blocked the interview by EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland hours before he was set to testify on Capitol Hill, sending the Democrats into a tailspin. House Democrats launched an impeachment inquiry into President Trump without holding a full vote on the House floor, and Trump is fighting back. Pelosi is trying to push forward with impeachment without a full vote so she doesn't expose vulnerable red state Democrats who would likely lose their seats in 2020 if they went on the record supporting impeaching Trump. Furthermore, without a full vote on the impeachment, minority members of the House Judiciary and House Intel committees do not have subpoena power and therefore cannot call in witnesses. The White House told reporters Tuesday afternoon that no administrative offices will testify in impeachment probe. Senior officials say that the administration policy under current circumstances. Now, this also just came in, and I see it here. I will read it to you in a minute, but first I want to go on to our next news story. Trey Gowdy joins Trump's legal team to fight impeachment. Good. Former Rep. Trey Gowdy, representative of South Carolina, has reportedly signed to serve as outside counsel to President Donald Trump as part of his efforts to fight the House Democrats' impeachment inquiry. An unnamed administrative official confirmed the move to the Associated Press on Tuesday evening. Gowdy, who retired from Congress last year, represented South Carolina's 4th Congressional District for 8 years. The former lawmaker served as House Oversight Committee chairman and oversaw the investigation into former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and events surrounding the 2012 terror attack in Benghazi, Libya. Since leaving Washington, D.C., Gowdy joined the law firm Nelson Mullins Riley in Scarborough and signed on as a Fox News channel contributor. Well, that's what I was going to read to you right here. I have it on my phone, and I am looking into this, but it appears to be true, and I will retract it if it is not. But on for first cursory looks, statement here, Fox News announced Wednesday that the former South Carolina representative Trey Gowdy has been terminated by the network. Gowdy's firing comes after he reportedly agreed to help the White House fight a Democrat-led impeachment inquiry against President Donald Trump. Fox originally hired the former representative as an on-air contributor back in January. So, this is interesting. Trey Gowdy has been terminated. It is no longer a contributor at Fox News, a spokesman told The Hollywood Reporter. All right. I used to trust Fox News. At least they were the ones that were closest to being trusted. But this is, they're really coming out blatantly doing things now, folks. And so you will know them by their fruit. And this says a great deal to me. So that's just something to keep in mind as we move forward. All right. It's going to be a bang couple of weeks. That's one of the next news releases. It's Rudy, Giuliani, and Joe diGenova. It all leads to Obama. First Biden, then Hillary, then 3 others, and then Obama. I wonder who those other 3 others are. The best half hour of TV in a decade occurred last night on Laura Ingram's, the Ingram Angle. Guest former mayor of New York and President Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, and former U.S. Attorney Joe diGenova tore into the Democrats' phony impeachment, and then went to the heart of all the corruption in D.C., and they were brilliant. Shortly before the break, Laura's guests shared the following. This is what Rudy said. For years, Obama had to pay for play operation in his administration, and it's disgusting. And one of the reasons they're fighting it so hard. If Biden comes out, so does Clinton come out, and about 3 others. This goes right to the top of the Obama administration, and the administration that says, I didn't have scandals, will be the most scandal-ridden administration in our history. Obama didn't care about ethics. He didn't care, otherwise it wouldn't have happened. Joe states, that's right. Rudy says, a vice president should have been stopped from doing this by a president who had the slightest bit of integrity. But a Chicago poll like Obama, pay for play 8 times, millions of dollars to your vice president, Biden, and hundreds of millions of dollars to your Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, they just bought the offices. They're all crooks. So the link has some interesting Twitter remarks, etc. Obama, Biden, Hillary, and the Democrats should be very worried. The corruption is trickling out now. diGenova believes it's going to be a bang, bang couple of weeks. And I tend to agree, very much so. Okay, let's see. The last one I'm going to go over tonight, we're going to be trying to do at least once a week a Seavine Patriot Challenge. And in other words, if any of our listeners and our members, Seavine members on our Facebook page, group page, see something that is really patriotic and newsworthy, please go ahead and take your phone and film it or take some pictures and send it in to us. You can send it to my email address. My personal email address is linda@seavinenetwork.com. That's linda@seavinenetwork.com. There is no dashes. Send it to me, and I may we'll put you in as a possibility for one of the winners of the week for the Seavine Patriot Challenge, and we'll send you a white hat. Okay, well, today this article that came in from Bonnie near Goudet. And it was a matter of empty NFL stadium seats speak volumes. National anthems matter to us. Where is everybody? Seavine Patriot Challenge, this week's winner. The American people have spoken. So many empty seats, so few peeps. Whatever has happened to America's favorite pastime? Maybe it's way past time that we allow a few of the in-your-face dissenters like Kaepernick to carry the ball. Pun was intended. It is about time. The American spirit is alive and well, and finally we are witnessing the American freedom-loving public make their displeasure known in a very tangible way. Quit messing with our national anthem and get back to playing the game of football. We are, after all, patriotic American citizens first before we are football lovers. I wonder if those such as Kaepernick enjoyed playing to an empty stadium and if they will ever get a clue. Game over. Fans stunned by empty stadium seats as NFL season enters the week. Sports fans were shocked over the weekend as NFL stadiums across the country were filled with vacant seats, a troubling indicator for the beleaguered league as Americans flee in droves following years of protests against the national anthem. Not many people here at Paul Brown Stadium to see this clash of NFL teams, posted one reporter for ESPN. And if you look at this picture in this article that we are posting, it's pretty darn empty. There's a whole lot, you can see quite a few, empty seats here. And this was during the actual game. Wow. 10 minutes before the kickoff in Houston for Falcons Texans. Look at that. Yep, that's pretty darn empty. There's not very many people there at all. Interesting. Empty seats galore. And this is in the Bengals football, Catch the Fever. And you can see there that there are very few seats. So this people in the seats, this just isn't in one place. This happened on October 6th. Former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick doubled down on his U.S. Anthem protest earlier this year, telling athletes who plan on kneeling during the Star-Spangled Banner to stay strong during the upcoming 2019 season. My brother at E. Reed, etc., at K. Stills, continues to fight for the people, even in the face of death threats. They have never moved past the people and continue to put their beliefs into action. Stay strong, brothers, posted Kaepernick on social media. So that's interesting. I think it's showing how the American public is fighting back, and it's about time. It's about time that people are going to start get to a clue when, you know, they're screaming and yelling and pounding their fist, and all they're doing is hearing crickets. So if you find something that is really good, that helps to build up our patriot spirit, and we can see how much of it really is going on, this is something we want to put into the news so people can see this for themselves. Down at the bottom of this report is a copy of all the tribunal transcripts that I had mentioned to you before. You can go ahead and download those. And so that's the end of our report this evening. We do request that when you go to our website on c-fine.com, that you notice that the homepage is where all of the daily news, this is updated all the time. We've got a whole huge team of individuals that are donating their time as volunteers. There's a section here with military tribunals, goes all the way back. Anything you want to know about military tribunals, if you've been missing anything, you got a lot there to catch you up. Also have the world news, we have education, we have the forum, we have a store. And this is the C-Vine donation page. I am asking or requesting, because the tribunals for this next month are coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to be done with the tribunals from before. You're going to be all up to date by the time we go to those, but there is a lot of expense for us to travel across the country to be able to see these that last, and this next one's going to be lasting for 2 weeks. So hotel, room and board, and etc. Nobody's getting paid. This is a foundation. C-Vine is a foundation, and we're all volunteers, every single one of us. So help with just covering our expenses is badly needed, and we thank you for that. Well, that's all for this evening. Please tune in tomorrow when we will be back with the next daily evening news. We'll have more Gitmo updates and breaking news.